Welcome back to the deep dive.
Today we're
Going deep on something pretty wild.
how about shared anticipations?
Or even,
Group mind melds.
okay, maybe not quite that extreme.
But get this.
You've sent us this seriously dense academic paper,
It's called,
Shared Pretensions in Multi-Agent Active Inference.
I know.
Sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry,
You're
right?
spot on.
But hold on.
Because this paper,
It explores something we've all experienced.
it's how groups,
How they somehow develop these common goals.
without even uttering a word.
And while the paper itself dives headfirst into some serious mathematical depth,
The core idea is surprisingly relatable.
it all comes down to how we experience time,
And not just the now.
but the lingering past,
Okay?
and the intriguing future we anticipate. Let's unpack this whole time thing.
Because it's a bit more complex than just checking our watches, right?
Absolutely.
The paper leans on the work of philosopher Edmund Husserl.
Who believed our experience of time,
Well, it isn't linear like a straight line.
but more like a flowing river with hidden depths.
Think about it. There's the immediate sensation of what we're experiencing right now.
Husserl calls this the primal impression,
But there's also the lingering effect of the past,
which he calls retentions.
almost like echoes shaping our present moment.
So it's like how that whiff of freshly baked cookies.
It can transport you back to your childhood kitchen.
Exactly.
Those sensory flashbacks are retentions at work.
But here's the real kicker,
There's also pretension
which is our implicit anticipation of what's to come.
based on those very retentions.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Give me an example of pretension in action.
Picture this.
You walk into your favorite coffee shop,
The aroma of freshly brewed coffee.
the barista's friendly greeting,
That's your noun.
your primal impression,
But because of your past experiences,
your retentions,
you already anticipate the ordering process.
maybe even the taste of your usual latte.
That's pretension guiding your experience.
So time is less like a rigid ticking clock,
And more like a jazz improvisation.
building on what came before.
Always reaching for that next note.
You've got it.
It's a dynamic flow.
Constantly shaped by the past and reaching towards the future.
And this is where it gets really fascinating.
When we bring groups into the picture,
This paper suggests that these pretensions,
as anticipation.
they can actually be shared.
Now that's what I call a plot twist.
So we're not just talking about predicting each other's actions.
Like some awkward pre-crime division, right?
Not quite.
It's a far more nuanced concept.
The paper argues that these shared experiences,
Particularly those built up over time.
they create a kind of resonance.
Between our individual generative models.
Hold on, generative models.
Don't get too technical on me here.
No worries.
I'll keep it simple.
Think of your generative model as your brain's internal simulator
Constantly predicting, updating.
and refining its understanding of the world,
When you spend enough time with someone,
especially doing similar activities.
your models start to align.
You begin to anticipate not only their actions,
but also their thoughts and preferences.
so it's like how my best friend can walk into my apartment
And immediately know I'm craving pizza.
without me saying a word.
Precisely.
Or consider how a well-drilled sports team moves in sync.
Anticipating each other's moves effortlessly.
Years of shared training have aligned their generative models to an incredible degree.
This is already blowing my
And
mind.
we haven't even gotten to the math part yet.
Ah, yes, the math.
It's not for the faint of heart.
But it's crucial for understanding the mechanics of how these shared pretensions actually work.
And that's where things get even more interesting.
Yeah, where we'll pick things up in part 2 of this deep dive.
All right,
So
we left off on this cliffhanger.
it was
Shared pretensions.
generative models, humming in harmony. How do we actually make sense of this incredible concept in a tangible way?
That's where the real magic of this paper comes in.
It doesn't just throw out a cool idea and leave us hanging.
It delves into the nitty-gritty of explaining how this works.
And for that,
We need to venture into the world of...
category theory.
Okay, I'll admit.
Category theory.
It sounds a little intimidating.
It's giving very much advanced calculus vibes.
It might sound like something out of a science fiction movie.
But it's actually a powerful tool for understanding relationships.
And not just any relationships.
Relationships between relationships.
Relationships between relationships.
You're going to have to break that down for me.
Think of it like this.
Imagine, instead of just looking at individual players on a soccer field,
We're analyzing the patterns of passes between them
how those passes create scoring opportunities.
and how the team functions as a whole.
Category theory helps us understand these complex interactions.
And the emergent properties they create.
So instead of focusing on individual actions,
We're looming out to see the bigger picture.
The choreography of the entire game.
Exactly.
It's about understanding the structure of these interactions.
In the context of shared pretensions.
Category theory allows us to model how individuals
Each with their own generative models and anticipation.
can begin to resonate with each other
Over time.
through continuous interaction and feedback,
Those individual anticipations can align.
leading to a shared understanding of how things will unfold.
So it's like each player has their own playbook.
But through shared experiences and constant communication,
They start to improvise seamlessly.
predicting each other's moves,
And creating this beautiful...
coordinated performance.
That's a fantastic analogy.
And just like a well-rehearsed orchestra.
The more those individual generative models align,
The more fluid and intuitive their interactions become.
they're no longer just reacting to each other.
They're anticipating.
Moving together towards a shared goal.
This is all incredibly fascinating.
But I have to ask,
If this is happening all the time,
at a subconscious level,
what does it actually look like in the real world?
how does this shared pretension play out in our everyday lives?
Oh, it's happening all around us.
Constantly shaping our social interactions and influencing our decisions.
So last time
We were talking about how this shared pretension thing
it's happening all around us.
subtly shaping our social interactions.
In ways we might not even realize.
Right.
We're all part of this invisible dance.
Anticipating and responding to each other's moves.
But what does this actually look like?
In practice.
Can you give us some real-world examples?
Absolutely.
Think about something as simple as a conversation.
We often finish each other's sentences,
Not because we're psychic.
but because our shared history.
It's our understanding of each other's thoughts and preferences.
It allows us to anticipate what's coming next.
Or think about the unspoken coordination within a team.
The way colleagues seem to instinctively know who's best suited for a particular task.
Or how a group of firefighters can work together seamlessly.
In a high-pressure situation.
These are all examples of shared pretension at work.
Okay.
I'm starting to see how this goes way beyond just finishing each other's sentences.
It's about how we build trust.
How we establish norms.
How we create a sense of shared purpose.
Exactly.
And this is where things get really interesting, because if shared pretension is this powerful force shaping our social world,
Then understanding how it works.
well, it could give us incredible insights
Into everything from improving teamwork.
to designing more effective social interventions.
So we're not just talking about some abstract academic theory here.
There's real potential for this.
To change how we live and work together.
Absolutely.
Imagine being able to design educational programs.
That foster deeper collaboration among students.
Or developing workplace strategies.
That maximize team cohesion and creativity.
And on a larger scale.
Understanding shared pretension.
Well, it could even help us address social challenges.
Like polarization and conflict resolution.
That's incredible.
But
If this shared anticipation is so powerful,
are there also potential downsides? Could it lead to things like groupthink?
where people become so aligned in their thinking.
That they fail to consider alternative perspectives.
That's a crucial point.
And it's something the paper addresses as well.
While shared pretension can be incredibly beneficial,
It's important to remember that. It's not inherently good or bad.
it's a tool.
And like any tool.
It can be used in both positive and negative ways.
So how do we ensure,
That we're using this tool responsibly,
how do we harness the power of shared pretension for good?
while mitigating the potential risks.
That's the million-dollar question.
And there's no easy answer.
But I think awareness is key.
By understanding how shared pretension works,
We can become more conscious.
of its influence on our thoughts and behaviors,
We can start to notice.
when we're being swept along by the tide of collective anticipation,
And when it might be beneficial to pause
reflect.
and consider alternative perspectives
So it's about finding that balance
between going with the flow.
and maintaining our own critical thinking skills.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that shared pretension is a powerful force.
But it's not an irresistible one.
We still have agency.
We still have the ability to choose.
How we participate in these shared anticipations.
And how we shape the future we want to create.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It's like we've peeked behind the curtain of our social interactions.
And discovered this hidden language of shared anticipation.
I know I'm going to be looking at the world a little differently from now on.
Up to you.
And that's the beauty of exploring these complex concepts.
They challenge our assumptions.
Expand our understanding.
And ultimately,
Help us navigate the world.
with greater awareness and intention,
And on that note,
we'll leave you to ponder these ideas.
and how they might be playing out in your own life.
This has been The Deep Dive.
Reminding you that the future isn't something that just happens to us.
It's something we create, one shared anticipation at a time.